speaking of the conflict, will it be, in your mind, will it be centered on Taiwan? Because it's obviously there's anytime anyone's talking about China lately, right? It's always about, well, what's the timeline for the move on Taiwan? But where do you think that conflict will be based or focused?
Yeah, I do not think that China will start hostilities by an invasion of the main island of Taiwan. It is too difficult. It is beyond the capabilities of China. China has never engaged in a combined air, land, sea operation, and this would be extremely hard. Also, to do this, Xi Jinping would have to give some flag officer almost total control of the Chinese military, making that general or admiral the most powerful figure in China. And it would be extremely, extremely unpopular with the Chinese people, because although the people in Taiwan think that they are Taiwanese, not Chinese, people in China, because of indoctrination, believe that they're Chinese. And Chinese believe that, quote, Chinese should not kill other Chinese. So killing a lot of Taiwanese is going to be really, really unpopular. China right now is more casualty averse than we are, which is a long story. I can go through it if you're ever interested. But the point is, they're not going to do something which would involve a lot of Chinese casualties. That's why I think they're picking on the Philippines right now, because they think that they can get a quick win. Although it's not going to be enormously popular with the Chinese people who don't want war, it will be a win that Xi Jinping will be able to cement his hold on power and to be able to quiet his critics at the top of the Communist Party.
But are you implying a military takeover of the Philippines?
Well, they'll want to grab, some reef or some shoal or some islet. The problem here is you're going to have war. That war will spread. It'll spread to Taiwan. So Taiwan doesn't get a free pass out of this. I think it embroils most of the region. But as I said, China's not going to start hostilities by an invasion of the main island of Taiwan. China will do something, they'll do something sort of very, not very important. They might grab little Taiwan islands, which are about 2.5, 3 miles from the coast of China. They could do that. But they're not, people are not going to be terribly impressed if they do that. And they're going to cause more problems for themselves, which is the reason why, although those islands are not militarily defensible, China hasn't grabbed them because it doesn't make sense. And even Xi Jinping can see that. But Xi Jinping can do things, creating conflict, Philippines, Japan, wherever, that spreads throughout the region, and Taiwan does become involved.
It's interesting what you said about the Chinese regime being casualty averse, right? Because even more so than the U.S. Because in the U.S., trying to plan out any type of operation, the first point of conversation is always, well, how do we make this zero risk? How do you? So it's hard to imagine that there's another nation out there that's even more risk averse when it comes to the blowback or the casualties from an operation of any sort. Militarily, it's a very interesting statement on your part.
Let me give you an example. June 2020, China launched a surprise attack against Indian forces in Galwan, which is in the Himalayas. India immediately reported that they had 20 killed in action that night. China said nothing. In February of the following year, China admitted 4 casualties, where India and Russia said China had 45 killed that evening. So imagine, between June and February, they said nothing. And then when they said something which was clearly not right. As casualty averse as we are, we're not like that. And that shows you the mentality of the Chinese leadership, how afraid they are about talking about their own killed in front of their own people. They just won't do it.
How this may be, again, one of those questions that's difficult to answer in a short period of time, but
you're not
how
asking
widespread
easy
is information?
Mike.
I know. I'm sorry. But I am trying to keep my use of big words down to a minimum. So inside China, how widespread is information? How aware are people, and not in Beijing or Shanghai, but I mean spread around the country? How aware are they of what's happening outside of China?
That's a great question. Basically, I think you boil it down to this. They often don't know about things because the Great Firewall, as it's called, is very effective. But they know a lot about what's happening inside China because Chinese people are very connected with all sorts of social media platforms. And there's the rumor mill. Mm-hmm. So they know a lot about that. When they hear stuff about what's going on in the outside world, the Communist Party does its damnedest to try to put its spin on it. Now, there's a lot of cynicism, especially right now, for various reasons. So, yes, they are able to prevent the Chinese people from knowing about stuff, but it's not that effective when you step back and think about what the Chinese people are actually thinking. And right now, the party has very little ways of actually influencing the Chinese people in the way that the party wants. They can coerce them, they can keep them quiet, they can keep them intimidated and afraid, and that we know. But every once in a while, the Chinese people explode, as they exploded in about 2 years ago with a series of extraordinary protests starting in October 2022 and lasting into the early months of 2023. People just couldn't take it anymore. So it is a volatile situation inside the country.